right now, millions of Americans are refreshing their bank accounts, hoping to spot that rumored $2,000 deposit everyone's been buzzing about. The headlines are exploding, the rumors are spreading like wildfire, and chances are your neighbor has already mentioned these supposed new checks said to be approved by President Trump. But before you make any financial moves or believe what's circulating online, here's the real story. The truth behind these November payments is far more complicated than the viral posts and flashy headlines suggest. We're talking about real policy changes, actual tariff discussions happening in Washington right now, and legitimate updates to benefit programs that could affect your monthly income. Some seniors will see money, others won't. And understanding exactly where you stand could mean the difference between financial relief and dangerous confusion. In the next few minutes, I'm breaking down the real facts behind these $2,000 check claims, what's actually been approved versus what's still being debated, and most importantly, whether you qualify for any legitimate payments coming this November. No hype, no speculation, just verified information from official government sources that you can actually use. Let me be completely honest with you right from the start. When you see headlines screaming about President Trump approving new $2,000 checks, your first instinct might be to get excited or start planning how you'll spend that money. I get it, because when I first saw these headlines popping up everywhere, I wanted to believe them too. But here's the reality we need to discuss, and I promise you, understanding the truth is far more valuable than chasing false promises that leave you disappointed and confused. Right now, the internet is overflowing with posts and videos claiming that President Trump has approved brand new $2,000 stimulus checks set to arrive in mailboxes and bank accounts across America this November. But here's the catch. Many of these claims are blending together unrelated programs, recycling outdated details, and adding fresh rumors to create a story that sounds exciting but doesn't line up with what's really happening in Washington. The problem with all this misinformation is that it gets seniors' hopes up, causes unnecessary stress, and prevents people from focusing on the legitimate benefit changes and payments that are actually available. So let's talk about what's really going on with government payments right now, because there are actual updates that matter to your finances, even if they're not exactly what those sensational headlines promised. The first thing you need to understand is that there is no brand new standalone $2,000 stimulus check that President Trump has approved for all Americans this November. That specific claim is not accurate based on any official government announcements or legislation that's been passed. But, and this matters, there are genuine programs and proposals currently being discussed that are getting tangled together and exaggerated in those viral stories. Let's walk through the facts piece by piece because the real situation is already complicated enough without adding misinformation on top. First, we need to talk about Social Security because for most seniors, this is your primary source of income and any changes here matter tremendously. The Social Security Administration has already announced the cost of living adjustment for the coming year. And while this isn't a one-time $2,000 check, it does represent a real increase in your monthly benefits that will add up over time. The COLA increase impacts tens of millions of beneficiaries, and knowing exactly how much extra you'll be getting each month is essential for smart financial planning. However, some people are taking this COLA update, mixing it with talks about possible tax rebates, and labeling it all as a new $2,000 stimulus check, which is where much of the confusion begins. The truth is that the annual cost of living adjustment is a percentage increase applied to your existing benefit amount, which means the actual dollar amount you'll see depends entirely on what you're already receiving. If your current Social Security benefit is higher, your COLA increase will be larger in dollar terms. If your benefit is on the lower end, your increase will be smaller. This is standard procedure that happens every year, not a special new stimulus program. But here's where things get interesting and why there's a kernel of truth buried in all these exaggerated headlines. There have been genuine discussions in Washington about various forms of economic relief and benefit enhancements specifically targeted at seniors and people on fixed incomes. Some lawmakers have proposed legislation that would provide one-time supplemental payments to Social Security beneficiaries, recognizing that many seniors have been hit particularly hard by inflation over the past few years. These proposals have included amounts ranging from a few hundred to over $1,000 per person, depending on the specific bill and who's sponsoring it. The challenge is that proposing legislation and actually passing it into law are two completely different things. Just because a senator or representative introduces a bill doesn't mean it's going to become reality. And it definitely doesn't mean checks are already in the mail. The legislative process requires bills to pass through committees, get voted on by both the House and the Senate, and then be signed by the President. This takes time, and many proposals never make it past the initial stages. So when you see articles claiming that payments have been approved, you need to ask yourself whether they're talking about a proposal, a bill that passed one chamber of Congress, or something that actually became law. Now let's address the tariff rebate part of these headlines, because this is another area where real policy discussions are getting twisted into misleading claims. There have been talks about how tariff revenue collected by the federal government might be redistributed to American citizens in various forms. The basic idea is that when the United States imposes tariffs on imported goods, that money goes into the federal treasury. And some policymakers have suggested using that revenue to provide direct payments or tax relief to Americans who might be paying higher prices because of those tariffs. It's an intriguing economic idea, but once again, talking about it is very different from actually putting it into action. The reality of tariff rebates is highly complex, involving layers of trade policy, tax regulations, and budget negotiations all intertwined. And even if there were strong political support for such a program, determining who qualifies, how much they'd get, and how to deliver those payments would likely take months, if not years, to fully design and implement. The federal government can't just decide on a Monday to send out checks on Friday. No matter what some clickbait headlines might suggest, there are systems that need to be built, databases that need to be cross-referenced, and countless logistical challenges that need to be solved. What you should really be focusing on right now are the verified benefit programs and payment schedules that are already in place and running as usual. Social Security payments follow a consistent schedule based on your birth date, and that schedule doesn't suddenly change just because a viral post claims there's a new stimulus on the way. Supplemental security income payments also have their own timeline, typically arriving on the first day of each month or on the last business day of the previous month if the first falls on a weekend or holiday. These are the dependable payments you can actually rely on, and knowing when they'll arrive helps you plan your bills and expenses more effectively. There's also been genuine discussion about expanding benefits for certain Social Security recipients who may have been shortchanged by the way benefits are calculated. For example, some seniors, especially those who spent years caring for family members or had gaps in their work history, can end up with lower monthly payments, even though they contributed to their communities in meaningful and important ways. Proposals to address these inequities have been floating around Congress. And while they represent real attempts to help vulnerable seniors, none of them involve immediate $2,000 checks landing in everyone's account this November. Medicare is another area where real changes are happening that might be getting confused with stimulus payments in some of these viral stories. Medicare Part B premiums and deductibles are adjusted annually, and these changes can affect how much money you actually take home from your Social Security check. Since many beneficiaries have their Medicare premiums deducted automatically, when premiums go down or stay stable while your Social Security benefit increases due to COLA, it can feel like you're getting extra money, even though it's really just the result of how these two programs interact with each other. Here's something else that's important to understand about government payments and benefits. When legitimate new programs are created, or when significant one-time payments are authorized, the announcement comes through official channels first. You'll see press releases from the Social Security Administration, the Department of the Treasury, or the White House itself. Major news organizations will report on it, and the information will be posted on official government websites like SSA.gov. If the only place you're hearing about a payment is from random YouTube videos or Facebook posts, that should be a red flag that prompts you to dig deeper and verify the information. The psychological toll of these false claims is often overlooked. When seniors hear that they're supposedly about to receive $2,000 and that money never shows up, it creates genuine stress and anxiety. Many make financial choices based on funds they expect to receive, and when that money doesn't appear, it can put them in tough situations. Some might delay paying bills or make purchases they wouldn't normally consider, assuming that the stimulus money will cover it, only to find themselves in a bind. That's why it's so important to approach extraordinary claims with skepticism and to verify any information before acting on it. Scammers thrive on the confusion surrounding government payments, which adds another layer of risk. When people are expecting money from the government, criminals often see an opening to impersonate officials and trick individuals into giving away personal information or handing over money. You might get phone calls or emails claiming you need to verify your information to receive your stimulus check, or saying you need to pay a processing fee to get your money faster. These are always scams because the real government will never ask you to pay money to receive benefits you're entitled to, and they won't call you out of the blue demanding personal information. If you want to stay updated on actual benefit changes and legitimate payment programs, it's important to rely on trustworthy sources. The Social Security Administration's website is the go-to resource for accurate information on retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. They regularly post announcements about COLA increases, payment schedules, and any updates to how benefits are calculated or distributed. The IRS website is authoritative for anything related to tax credits, stimulus payments, or rebates that come through the tax system. These official sources might not be as exciting as viral videos promising everyone free money, but they'll give you accurate information you can actually use to plan your finances. Looking ahead, there may well be future legislation that provides additional support to seniors and others struggling with the cost of living. Economic conditions change, political priorities shift, and what is impossible today might become reality tomorrow. But the key is to distinguish between what might happen in the future and what is actually happening right now. Proposals and possibilities are worth being aware of, but they shouldn't be confused with enacted programs that are currently distributing money. The bottom line is simple. Approach flashy headlines promising large sums of money with skepticism, especially when they gloss over the complicated reality behind them. Always trust official government sources over random online claims. Avoid making financial decisions based on money you think might be coming until you've confirmed it's real and that you actually qualify. While the truth may be less sensational than the hype, knowing what's genuinely happening with your benefits is the only way to make informed choices about your financial future. Your Social Security and other benefits are far too important to gamble on misinformation or empty promises.